This is a new story, or the newest story I've written. I wrote it this summer. It's got some blue language, quite a bit, but I'll try and edit as I see how the room reacts to it. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll find out. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see what's coming here. This is called an arc welder, a Molotov cocktail, a Bowie knife. It was almost midnight when my girlfriend got a call about her sister who had been arrested for taking a kebab skewer at a cookout and stabbing her husband so close to his dick that it was probably going to affect its long-term functioning. Though I did not like the guy at all, the prognosis for his dick had been my immediate concern upon hearing of the altercation, not the fact that his wife was now in jail. Even though it was over an hour away, I drove my girlfriend to their house so she could watch her nieces and nephews until their parents found a way to get back home. If they end up killing each other, my girlfriend told me, I think I'm the one who gets custody of the kids. I didn't have to say anything in response because she knew as well as I did that I would not be around if that scenario ever became reality. The kids were as close to feral as you can get, like animals dressed up in camouflage jumpsuits. Someone had dumped an entire box of frozen corn dogs onto a pan and was warming them on top of a kerosene heater in the living room. The youngest boy, who was 5, and the two girls, 8 and 10, were tearing open packets of Pop-Tarts, even though there were already dozens of half-eaten Pop-Tarts all over the house. There were 3 or 4 kittens, their eyes oozing pus, running up and down the hallways, and my eyes burned from the smell of piss that saturated the air. In what was ostensibly the dining room, there were 6 broken, outdated computers in plain sight. The oldest boy, who I think was 14 but looked older, was playing a video game about the apocalypse, but all he was doing was scrolling through the available weapons in his possession while the game was on pause. I couldn't stand still in the house because the toxins in the air would settle on me, so I kept pacing through the rooms, afraid to stop moving. In the kitchen, there was a person-sized puddle of grape soda that had turned solid, imprints of the kids' bare feet tracking it all over the vinyl floor. My girlfriend took the girls into the bathroom and turned the shower on them and got them ready for bed. Then she made a bed on the sofa for the little boy, and we watched him hump a pillow for nearly 15 minutes before he finally fell into something that was barely sleep. The oldest kid, a fucking giant, more than 6 feet 3 inches tall, just kept scrolling through all the weapons he could, if he wanted to, use on any number of irradiated mutants. My girlfriend went into the kitchen to clean up a little, and I watched the hypnotic clicking of the game as the boy went back and forth between items: brass knuckles, pieces of brick, a baseball bat with nails in it, a BB gun, a 9mm pistol, a sniper rifle, a sawed-off shotgun, an arc welder, a Molotov cocktail, a Bowie knife, a sledgehammer, an empty 2-liter of Mountain Dew, a plasma rifle, and on and on and on. Finally, without even looking at me, he said, "People always talk, but then when you do something, they shut up." I had no idea if he was threatening me or if this was connected to the pause game, but I did not for 1 second think about responding. "Bitches today, they're everywhere," he said, without any emotion whatsoever. "Okay," I said. He finally unpaused the game, having selected a plasma rifle, and it was not more than 5 seconds before a zombie jumped from a tree overhead and ripped out his throat. He restarted the game, paused it, and scrolled again through the list of available weapons. The cat piss smell was starting to settle on my clothes, particles of it like snowflakes on my eyelashes, and so I got up and did another round through the house. "I found a bone beside the toilet," my girlfriend said to me, holding up something white and hard. It was not a fragment of a bone, but an intact bone of unknown provenance. Human or animal, we did not know, and there seemed a 50-50 chance of what it was based on the other evidence in the house. We had to keep our voices down because the oldest boy was still in the living room, gnawing on the wooden corn dog sticks until they splintered in his mouth, still trying to decide how best to kill something imaginary. He split her lip once, she said to me, like there wasn't a bone on the edge of the sink in front of us, like we were just going to table the mystery bone and talk about what we already knew, that her sister and brother-in-law were not going to resolve anything anytime soon. Do you think the skewer is a direct, retaliation for getting her lip split? I don't know, she said, seriously considering it. It was almost a year ago. You think your sister could take a split lip, hold on to that moment for almost a year, waiting for the right time and weapon, and stab him in the dick? Yes, she replied, her eyes like a kaleidoscope with the realization of how right she was. Then it's just gonna escalate, I think, I told her, as if this was the kind of shit I had any experience with. What do I do, she asked me, and I was shocked to see her crying. She was crying about her fucked up, always drunk, sarcastic sister. She was scared because her sister was in jail and she was probably going to have to pay the bail, and her sister would probably be released from jail at the same time her brother-in-law would be released from the hospital, and they would probably just walk right back into this shitty house and fuck everything up again. My girlfriend was crying because her sister, who hated her, would need help, and my girlfriend would try to figure out how to give it. I leaned across the sink to pull her close to me, and I knocked the bone into the sink, and it made a clattering sound that made my teeth grind. But I held on to her and tried to calm her until I heard the little boy moaning and half awake and needing some kind of assistance. She started to get up, but I set her on the edge of the bathtub, right next to a giant hole in the ceramic like someone dropped a bowling ball on it, and told her I would take care of it. Before I'd have even completely kneeled down to look at the boy, he had his arms around my neck. Are you having a bad dream, buddy? I asked, and he whimpered and nodded. It's okay, I said, and I'm not lying when I say that I was suppressing my gag reflex the entire time I was holding him. This sweet little boy who was in no way responsible for all the awful shit that swirled around him on a daily basis. I thought back to what my girlfriend had said about custody if the parents killed each other, and I thought, fuck it, maybe I'd just take this one and light out for parts unknown. I'd never held a baby, a toddler, or any child, and I was getting used to being needed by something powerless. The boy had snot running down his nose, and I took the sleeve of my shirt and cleaned up his face. I lowered him back onto the sofa, and he, like he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, snatched my hand and pulled my entire left arm underneath his body, right up against his crotch, and he humped my arm for what felt like a long time until the battery inside of him wore out and he was asleep again. I looked over at the oldest boy, the giant, still scrolling, still obsessed with finding some kind of A-bomb of a weapon, shaking his head like I'd just been punked, like he'd set this all in motion and now I had done something embarrassing for him. You ever kill a fucking thing in this game? I asked him, my face hot with embarrassment. More than you ever could, he said. My hand was tingling, like it had some kind of special power that the little kid had imparted in the course of his humping. In real life, I said, I don't think you can just pause the action until you find the right weapon. That's why I'm practicing with this game, he said. When I go into the Marines, I'll be ready. You're going to be a Marine, I said. I'm going to be a sniper, he replied, or a light machine gunner, or on the back of a 50 cal, and I'm going to be the best. He was wearing snake boots that went to his knees, and he'd duct tape a butterfly knife to one of them. Fine, I said. I went back into the bathroom to find my girlfriend now on her knees, scrubbing the tub with scouring agents that had not been utilized once in the house's history. I told her that it was too late to even think about cleaning this place. She replied that she was going to sleep in the bathtub, its surface offering the quickest possibility of cleanliness. The sheets, she said, shuddering, require more than I can handle right now. I asked her, what about me? I could not fit in the tub with her. She suggested that, it being summer, I could sleep on the front porch. Now that the tub had been scraped clean and disinfected, she settled into it and twisted her body into the shape of sleep. I leaned over and kissed her. We'll figure this out, I said, and I hoped that she noticed that I had said, we. I wanted her to know that despite her questionable genetics, whatever hidden DNA contributed to the inhabitants of this house, I was a part of this now. I wanted her to know that if we ever combined our genes, the good would outweigh the bad. But she was already snoring, so who knows if my intentions were noticed. Back in the living room, the oldest kid was asleep, his gums bleeding from the corn dog sticks, his hand in some state of rigor mortis, his thumb depressing the controller so that all night long he would be scrolling through his weapons. I walked out of the house, across the lawn, and slept in my car, the windows rolled up, already reeking of my new circumstances. I woke the next morning to find the two girls sitting in the passenger side front seat. One of them had twisted off the stereo knobs, and the other one was trying and failing to get the car's electric cigarette lighter to ignite. The younger one, her teeth a crooked mess that at her age seemed sweet enough, said, "Are you going to marry Sassy?" I asked her if my girlfriend was Sassy. They said yes, and I said yes in reply. They asked what they could call me. "Just call me Cam for now," I told them. "Well, we're hungry, Cam," the older one said. I looked around the car, but I kept it clean so there wasn't any food around. I said we should go inside and find something, but they said they were out of food and that Sassy wanted me to drive them to the Creekside Market and get some food. They were in their underwear, or maybe it was their pajamas. "Fine," I said, and I sped off without telling them to put on seat belts. They shared the front seat and leaned out of the window. If a car crash could have maimed them, I would have been shocked into a coma. At the market, I handcuffed my hands around their wrists and led them up and down the tight aisles of the market. The air in that building was humid and smelled of crickets and worms from the bait boxes near the register. We got some cans of Vienna sausages and some more Pop-Tarts and gallon jugs of fruit punch. I did not trust the eggs or milk in this place where the refrigerated section was humming smoke and rot. The girls asked for some boxes of macaroni and cheese, and so we got 4 of them. They also asked for some kind of powder candy that turned their mouths shocking shades of blue. Fine, I bought whatever they asked for. The total was more than I had expected, but that's what life is like with 4 kids, I supposed. It seemed like anything more than 2 kids was resigning yourself to a life of food in bulk and lack of funds. I figured, now that I was so sure I was going to marry my girlfriend, when the previous night I imagined the ease of leaving her, that if we did come into custody of the kids, we could choose 2 of them to keep and send the other 2 into foster care. I knew this was wrong, but I also knew the rest of my time with these kids was going to be a silent audition for my grace. We bagged up the goods and sped home, their mouths toxic with the candy they had not saved for their brothers. Back at the house, I found the oldest boy removed from the couch for the first time in our short history together. He was standing in the utility room and holding a garbage bag while my girlfriend, her nostrils plugged with tissue paper, shoved her gloved hands into the dryer. What's going on?" I asked. The boy just shrugged, and when he saw the girls skipping into the kitchen with the food, dropped the garbage bag and shuffled towards them. My girlfriend gagged and turned quickly away from the dryer. "Where the fuck did he go?" she said. I motioned toward the kitchen without moving my gaze from the dryer. "What is going on?" I said. "All of their clothes just smell like this house," she said. "So I told them we needed to wash their clothes, and they said the washing machine was broken. And it is, I think, or maybe a fuse is blown. But when I looked in the dryer, which does work, by the way, there was this thing in it." I picked up the garbage bag and held it out for her. She gathered her courage, took a sharp intake of breath, and then retrieved a dead squirrel from the mouth of the dryer with her thumb and index finger. Half of the squirrel was fur, and half of the squirrel was bone. It was flattened. She weakly tossed it toward me, toward the garbage bag, I realized too late, and it fell to the floor, right at my feet. We both danced out of the room, into the hallway, and stared at the corpse. "Do you think it died in there?" she asked. "Or what?" I asked. "Or do you think someone put it in there?" she said. One of the kittens started to paw at the squirrel. Its claws got caught in the fur, and it shook its paw to disengage itself. My girlfriend picked up the squirrel and dropped it like a grenade into the bag. I twirled the bag shut and took it into the backyard. The less said about the backyard, the better. Fire pit, rusted tractor, foam block archery targets. "Okay," my girlfriend said to the kids who were eating, of course, every last one of the Pop-Tarts. "I want each of you to pick out 3 outfits, shirts, pants, socks, underwear, plus 1 pair of pajamas and your bed sheets. We're going to the laundromat." The little boy cheered, the frosting and fruit filling between his teeth like something caught in a bear trap. I played old maid with the kids while my girlfriend got the washing machines whirring into the early stages of shocking all the death out of those tainted fabrics. She had a plastic bag filled with quarters from the change machine, and they were rapidly declining. I shuffled the cards and discovered the pattern of play. They cheated. Without hesitation or attempt to hide it, I dealt the cards. The child who received the old maid card would quickly pretend that it was one of a pair and place it face down on the table. After about 15 minutes of the game, with only one card, a 2 of clubs or a jack of hearts left, we would realize that someone had lied. I then had to flip everyone's cards over until the cheater was discovered. Only then did someone lose and someone else win. At first, I was pissed off. I would explain how receiving the old maid card would not mean that you ended up with it at the end. But the kids did not want to take this chance. They wanted to cheat their way to freedom as quickly as possible. After a few hands, I simply gave up. I took cards and then let someone else take them from me. I let the kids sort it out on their own, and the game became nothing more than an incredibly inefficient way to shuffle cards. "Are you guys having fun?" I asked them. The little boy cheered. The other kids didn't answer, trying to figure out who had already lost and who would lose again. I emptied a snack machine and let the kids fight over the contents. I sat with my girlfriend while she watched the dryers flash fry the clothes. "I don't know if I can walk back into that house," she said. I asked her why we needed to go back at all. "Let's just take them to our place," I said. "It's an hour away for starters," she replied. "It's a 1-bedroom apartment." "Well, it doesn't smell like cat piss and dead squirrels, though. It's just," she said, "I don't want them to do to our place what they did to that house." "They can't, possibly, not in a day or two," I said. "I think they can," she said, staring at the kids who had sugared themselves into what looked zombie enough to be called resting. Their internal batteries, leaking fluid, were simply recharging themselves for another back-breaking surge. "What do? We can't clean that whole house. It's not possible. We need government assistance." "We just do the best we can," she finally said. "We do enough to keep them alive." "If we could get rid of the cats," I offered, "that would help." We got the kids to fold their own clothes, which had the same effect as if we'd asked them to turn their clothes into origami tumbleweeds. It was hypnotic to watch their folding somehow become unfolding. But my girlfriend walked them through the steps. And the kids got it mostly right, and we placed them all in some garbage bags, and I felt like Santa Claus carrying a sack of things that, though maybe not what they'd asked for, would make their lives happier than it was before. Their father was at the house when we returned. One of his friends was sitting in an idling truck, and the kids seemed happy to see their dad, who was shoving some of his clothes and a 12-pack of beer into yet another garbage bag. The house, I determined, was 30% garbage bags. The kids wanted to hug him, but he turned slightly away. I'm injured," he told them. "No heavy lifting for a good long while, kiddies." I didn't want to look full on, but I was curious as to the exact state of his incapacitation. He looked sheepish and a little peeved, but that might easily be his default state. He was a tiny man, skinny to the point of breaking in half, and his teeth had that brown rot of chewing tobacco. "I have to recuperate," he told us. "I'm staying with Jerry for a few days until I can get back to work." "What about Cindy?" my girlfriend asked. "She's still in jail, I think." "Could we maybe talk about this on the porch?" I said, trying to be a grown-up, away from the kids. "Well, they've heard so much worse," he said. "Yeah, I believe it," I told him. "But are you going to press charges?" she asked him. "It's not up to me." "Really?" "Well," he continued, "I don't pretend to be a lawyer. I don't think it's up to me, though. She brought all this on herself, so she's got to clean it up herself." "And what about the kids?" my girlfriend asked him. "Can't you just keep watching them?" "Until when?" I asked. "Until Cindy comes back," he said, getting irritated. "Fine," my girlfriend finally said. "Fine, go get drunk and ice your dick." "This is all your sister's fault," he said, and then he pushed past us and hobbled outside. He turned, noticed the garbage bags I was holding, and asked, "What's in those?" "We washed some clothes for the kids," I said. "Did you do any of my laundry?" he asked. We shook our heads. If there had been a kebab skewer anywhere in reach, my girlfriend would have stabbed him with it. "Well, thanks a lot," he said, and eased into the truck before they drove off, leaving us alone again with the kids. The kids fought. They shared the same spaces, made paths in each other's footprints. It was necessary to keep your space singular, to place an elbow in someone's mouth, teeth on an ankle, knuckles digging into someone's back. After 20 or 30 attempts to keep the magnets of their feet and fists from attracting another's, I gave up and let the ruin come down on top of me. I noticed that this happened without much resistance on my part. This was life, I imagined, or rather, this was a terrible life, the way you slowly gave into your surroundings and let it wash over you. I did not completely notice the smell of the house by this point, honestly. Finally, what we had been expecting since the moment we entered the house happened. My girlfriend's sister called from jail. I kept the kids away from the phone, left my girlfriend to her privacy. One of the cats peed on a magazine that was lying on the floor, and one of the girls picked up the magazine and simply moved it to the coffee table. I noticed that not a single toy of theirs was intact. This was, I began to understand, by design. If you ruined your own toys enough, no one else would try to steal it. Okay, my girlfriend said when she returned, it's complicated. I walked into the bathroom with her and she discussed the basics. Bail was set, and the charges weren't as bad as they could have been, mostly regarding the shit she gave the police who arrested her, not the skewered dick business. My girlfriend needed to come up with $500 for bail. It was a lot of money for us. I do tattoos, my girlfriend does piercings, we are not rich. We are not in a single dollar of debt, and the reason for this was that we didn't put up bail for every idiot who we knew who got locked up. Then I thought about the 4 kids, all of them in our apartment, all the breakfast cereal they would inhale, and it seemed like $500 was a fair price for our freedom. What about the kids, I asked. I imagine she'll get to keep them for now, she said. Maybe child services will be involved at some point, but who knows? I think they get to keep the kids as long as the kids don't get hurt. Well, I'm happy, I admitted. Still seems kind of fucked up. It seems like a stabbing should invite some sort of inquiry into your fitness as a parent. The deeper you get into this shit, my girlfriend said, the more you realize that nobody is keeping anyone else from fucking things up. I bought a boatload of pizzas and brought them back to the house, where I found the kids helping to straighten up the living room. There were 8 garbage bags filled with detritus and old food and what may or may not have been actual shit. There was a landfill of cheese curl dust between the cushions of the sofa. Heavy objects like broken furniture and boxes of rain disease textbooks had been moved from the middle of the room and pushed against the walls as if to keep the house propped up. It gave space to the room and allowed some measure of air to circulate. My girlfriend emptied the remains of a can of Febreze into the air, and the room just swallowed it whole. In their newly laundered clothes, with their hair combed, the children merely looked like freaks in a carnival show instead of wild animals. They were on the floor, huddled around the stack of pizza boxes like it was a campfire, and the youngest one said a short blessing that started off as a prayer and ended as a death metal intonation, the other kids simply kneeling on the floor as if expecting benediction. We ate, and it felt, for the first time, like an actual family and not adventures in an inhospitable, unstable region. We smiled, and our teeth were not scary. They were just the quickest way to show happiness. I imagined my girlfriend and me 10 years down the line, the faces of the children replaced with those of our own design. It made me long for the future, which I never, ever did in real life. The same routine as the night before, my girlfriend got the girls ready for bed. They lined up and gave me a hug. They smelled like kids now, powdered sugar and belly lint, and it made me tender towards them. They scrambled into their bedroom, and it wasn't long before they were asleep. I rocked the little boy against my chest, and I transferred him awkwardly to one of the sofas. He twitched like his foot was keeping a kick drum time to his own heartbeat. His dreams I could not imagine. My girlfriend and I sat on the floor and watched the oldest do his thing with the video game, finding no weapon to his liking, eventually giving in to his inevitable and quick death. He wanted, I now understood, to be stronger than anything evil, but he never would. Eventually, my girlfriend yawned and retired to the bathtub. I kissed her and continued to watch the oldest kid nervously scroll through the weapons for the millionth time. An arc welder, a Molotov cocktail, a Bowie knife. It would never end. The possibilities for ruination. He eventually chose the knife and tried to hack a zombie into bite sizes, but it got the jump on him and it was game over. "Fuck," he finally said. "This is a hard board," I said without conviction. "Yeah, no duh," he responded. "It's the hardest board in all video games. I got the cheat code off the internet just to get here. I used some of my own money to buy all the weapons that don't even come with the actual game. I've done all the shit I'm supposed to, and I just keep getting ass killed like some chump. Nobody on the message boards will even talk about this. What are you supposed to do, I asked. Not get killed. That's it? I guess so. It made sense enough to me. Surrounded by death and decay and no hope of anything getting better, all you could hope for was not to fall into the same fate. Just run, I finally said. Yeah, okay, he said, making a wanking motion with his free hand. I'm serious, I said. Don't fight them, just run as fast as you can. He considered this, wondered if he was being mocked. I do have some boots somewhere in this game that make me run really fast. Use them. Just run and don't stop running. He got the boots from the inventory. He restarted the game. Before the zombie dropped out of the tree, he was already digging into the earth and pushing himself forward. The zombie fell out of frame. Shit, the kid said, alive for as long as he'd ever been alive. Fucking shit. Keep running, I said. On the little map in the upper left-hand corner, I could see a swarm of red dots behind him. They moved not quickly, but with singular purpose. I'm running, he said. He ran and ran and ran, and the territory evaporated under his feet. He jumped over any non-living impediment. Anytime his route was cut off, he changed directions and kept running. He ran and scorched the earth behind him until finally, nearly an hour later, there was nothing left. Fucking shit, he said, looking over at me. The game suddenly shut down and the screen returned to the title. I beat that shit, he said. I offered him my hand for a high five, but he just smirked and shook his head. He restarted the game and went back into his inventory. I knew what was coming. Even when you've smashed through the people who want to fuck you over, you still want to keep tabs on the things that might keep you safe. I stood up, my bones popping. Good night, I said, and he nodded. I walked into the bathroom and knelt over the tub. My girlfriend was asleep, but just barely. It was easy enough, just with my presence, to bring her back to me. It'll be fine tomorrow, she said, still half asleep. Yeah, not for them, I said. No, I guess not, she said. After a few minutes of silence, she said, I asked my sister, and she said that they never finished the paperwork for custody. So what does that mean? Kids don't go to me. They go somewhere, and I guess it could maybe be me, but it's not the law. She adjusted her body, pulling tighter into herself, and I kicked off my shoes and squeezed into what was left of the tub. We were jammed into each other, sharing a foxhole, and we held each other tight against the constant presence of unhappiness. We would tear out our fingernails digging our way to something good. The world would try to fuck us, and we would stab it with whatever weapon was available to us. We would make every object a weapon that would protect us from anything that tried to convince us that we would not live forever in happiness. Thanks.